Okay, well, this video is all about our periods. If you would have told me when I first started my channel that I would be making a video like this, I think I would have been so nervous I would have just hidden my apartment for the rest of my life. But of course, I've realized how silly and irrational that is. And the more that we talk about things like our menstrual cycles that are beyond normal, and the more we can understand our bodies and help others and those who maybe need more resources. So without further ado, let's get into this video. I'm just going to be sharing a few of my favorite tips that I try and use when I'm dealing with PMS, when I'm dealing with my period, and of course, this is just my personal experience. I'm not a medical professional. I am just giving the opinion of somebody who has gone many years with a period myself. And these are just tips that I've learned later on in my life that I so wish I would have known in my adolescent years. And maybe if you have tips to share yourself, you can leave them in the comments down below. And also, of course, your period, your pain, your cycle, etc. is going to be so different than my own. These are just things that work for me. I'm even fortunate that one, I have a regular period and that it's even manageable. Above all else, if you need to, seek professional help, seek professional advice. Don't rely on a YouTube video like this for professional advice ever. Like, never look to YouTube for that. Okay, let's talk about bloating. All my life, ever since I got my period, for as long as I can remember, I have had the most uncomfortable, the most prominent, the most, I don't even know, amount of bloating ever, especially when I'm PMSing. To the point where I hold so much water, I have weighed myself before and after, and my body will hold as much as about 10 pounds when I'm PMSing. Literally 10 pounds of just bloating, holding onto water weight, and just my body doing the period thing. I don't know. And this used to bother me so much. I try and plan my life around when I wouldn't be having this terribly uncomfortable, mind you, bloating, because I just felt so embarrassed by it and I was so uncomfortable, and it was just, it's not fun. And it really used to just kind of get me down, because even, let's say, with my health and fitness journey, let's say I was trying to go on a cut or something, then all of a sudden, boom, Mother Nature comes into the picture, and out of left field, I feel like everything that I was doing was all for nothing. When in actuality, it's just my body working overtime to try and, you know, hustle things along as Mother Nature will. The only thing that really helps me is to, one, stay calm, just realize that my body's doing a lot of hard things. There's a lot happening down here. I try and make sure I'm hydrating my body. I try and make sure I get enough sleep. I think that's always really important for me. And also just giving myself enough fuel so that I'm not neglecting my body, even though I'm feeling like I'm bloated, I'm uncomfortable, blah, blah, blah. We often don't pinpoint what those symptoms are related to, when of course it's natural. It happens literally every single month, if we're lucky, if we have a regular cycle, which I believe is a lucky thing. The other day, I was editing at my computer. I was so beyond tired, but I'd gotten a full 8 hours of sleep, which for me and my body is perfectly fine. But still, I'd catch myself like almost falling asleep at my desk. And I kept thinking, oh my gosh, like I need to get this up. Like I can't let myself just sleep. But honestly, I was not listening to what my body wanted me to do, which was literally go take a nap. And it would bother me so much to the extent that I would feel guilty, because we live in such a productivity heavy culture that when I'm on my period or I'm PMSing and I'd feel so tired, I wouldn't let myself relax or sleep because I thought it meant I was lazy.
Oh, you sleepy girl. Sleepy girl. Oh.
So if you're like me, you're like us when you're on your period, give yourself some grace. This is extraordinarily common to feel those symptoms, and just log them, like make note of them. So when they happen again, you remember that this is exactly why you're feeling that way. Maybe it's your rest day from the gym. Maybe it's your potato day in bed. Just don't give yourself such a hard time. I took a quick little break from filming for a second, laid down, wanted to have my breakfast. Then somebody decided to cuddle up right next to me. So now I'm going to procrastinate a bit longer, but fill you in on something that I learned from one of my favorites, Natacha Océane. Essentially, I was watching one of her videos just because I am obsessed with her, and she happened to mention that she was on her period. And when she's on her period, she happened to notice that it also correlated to a higher caloric intake, or really just her having more of an appetite than maybe she normally would. And I thought that was really fascinating because I think a lot of times people will jokingly say, oh yeah, when you're on your period, like you have cravings like chocolate, etc. But never really, or at least I've never really looked into the science behind it. But of course, Natacha, as she does, provided us with all the facts.
Before my period, I always crave more like fats, more carbs, like the Nutella goes whenever I'm just coming onto my period. And I want to say that because I feel like a lot of people feel like they also feel that way, but don't understand that there's genuine science to back that up. So before our period starts, studies have shown that our energy expenditure can go up. So yeah, I think it's just important to be aware of that, because sometimes you'll have those cravings and you'll deny yourself of what your body's actually asking you for, when there's actually like good scientific reason for why your body is asking to have more fats and more carbohydrates. So don't feel guilty if you want to have more chocolate before your period comes.
Understanding that our bodies are essentially wanting more because they're burning more is really, really fascinating. I mean, just the more that you take the time to learn about your body and then how you can treat it and then be your best self by working around its schedule, I think that's fascinating. I think it's so neat to recognize how much our bodies fluctuate during this time of the month and how much better I would have been for so many years of my life if I would have understood that. Sharing bits of knowledge that I've learned that probably would have helped me so much when I was younger, I think can be really, really helpful. And it can also just alleviate a lot of anxiety, especially for me when I'm feeling really anxious on my period. I just let my thoughts spiral into a hole, and they shouldn't have to be like that because our bodies are working overtime to make sure that everything's going properly. I'm currently cleaning up my apartment. That's why there's a lot of clothes and things, and I'm kind of just hiding in the corner so I can film this without you seeing it. And of course, you still can, but we all have messy apartments. Let's talk about a few things that actually help me in regards to easing my pain or just kind of trying to go back to living my life as I normally would if I wasn't PMSing or on my period. I'm mentioning both PMS and period because for me, my PMS is way worse than when I'm actually on my period. I was gonna say something a little bit more graphic, but I do know that it's different for everybody, so that's why I'm mentioning both. For me, I have kind of bad lower back pain, sometimes cramps, but then usually just some bad headaches, usually a lot of fatigue and just kind of overall lethargicness. There's a lot to dissect here and a lot that I still don't even know myself, but you know, from somebody who is a woman, I'll give you my advice. The first for me, if you're comfortable, would just be taking medicine, which for me most of the time is Midol. Midol is absolutely fantastic. It is one of the best drugstore medicines that targets essentially any menstrual symptom. I feel like it targets my cramps, it targets my lower back pain. Sometimes it even fights bloating. Not even gonna lie, feels like it does. I try and take Midol as a last resort, really only if I need it, because I don't love taking medicine all of the time or necessarily relying on medicine. Regardless though, it's absolutely fantastic and just one of the best inventions ever. My next favorite thing is my tracking app. For as long as I can remember, I've used Flow, F-L-O. It's free on the App Store. I wanna say that you can upgrade to a premium subscription for maybe $20 for an entire year. So not that bad if you want just a lot of reliability in regards to tracking your symptoms, tracking your cycle. This literally tells me that I'm going to most likely get my period in the next 8 days, and the more that you enter in the information, the smarter the app gets and the more that it learns about you and your cycle, be that irregular or more irregular. It's just kind of fantastic to have something that's also supporting your mindset as well, because as I mentioned before, sometimes I don't always pinpoint why am I feeling this way? Why am I getting myself so down because I'm tired and I have an upset stomach and yada yada yada, and then all of a sudden I open up Flow here looks like I have my period in 8 days, things start to make a lot of sense. You can really log pretty much anything that you can think of on this app, and it will also give you more information if, let's say, you're struggling with something that might feel a little bit irregular to you. There's also anonymous forums on the app where if you have maybe a specific question about something that you're curious about, if you just kind of want to get a gauge of a community. I also saw this video once of this woman, I think it was on TikTok, and I will insert it here if I can find it, but it was a really long time ago. Essentially, she is her own business owner, and she decided a long time ago that she was going to make her schedule based off of her menstrual cycle. And this was something I had never heard of in my life.
We only put big tasks in the week after my period and my ovulation week when I have the most energy. We'll do launches in there. I'll build out programs. I'll record all my videos. I'll do a ton of energy draining tasks in those weeks. Then the weeks before my period and of my period, I don't really do a whole lot. My energy is completely drained and I know that before the month even starts. So we schedule minimal amounts of things in here to protect my energy.
Now, you really have to think, okay, that is a very privileged concept. Most of us aren't business owners. Most of us can't just tell our bosses, hey, I'm on my menstrual cycle this week. I'm not gonna submit any of my assignments, yada, yada, yada. However, it is a really interesting thing to even consider. It's kind of fascinating. Even from a perspective that's not completely oriented around 9 to 5, it is an interesting thing to ponder how you could maybe maximize your productivity or just maximize being your best self during the weeks that you feel like your best self. Because when I'm PMSing, your girl's here. Like, your girl is here. Getting ready to go to the gym right now. Mind you, still my period. But when I don't want to go, usually the first few days of PMS, I do one of a few things. The first would be absolutely nothing, AKA completely lean into it. And that is usually the most likely scenario. If and only if I have the energy to do something else, then I go work out. But I give myself a lot of grace, a lot of patience and understanding, especially when I'm PMSing, and I don't give myself a hard time because I need to rest up and I wanna lay on the bed, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So that's the first option. With my workout today, I started to feel that lower back pain. It was kind of activating in the middle of it, and I feel like that's normally my cue to listen to my body to maybe start to slow down, work out if I want, when I want, if I even want to. The second option is something like an active recovery or active rest of sorts, which would be taking Reese on a walk, which I kind of need to do either way, she's a dog, or just walking around my block, getting in a bit of exercise, because that doesn't necessarily make me feel uncomfortable. And sometimes if I just feel like I need to move my body, it's a really low impact way of staying active. Now, if that still feels like that's just not your vibe, you can also go the route of trying to cater your workout to your symptoms. I have to pause. Sorry, there was like just a lot of traffic outside and I didn't want to have to work with it. So the other options are to go to YouTube, a very glorious place, and to look up workouts that are going to help you for your particular pain. So honestly, sometimes I'll just type in period workout and see what pops up. I've done ones from Grow with Joe before. Daniela Suarez is another great option. Honestly, there is just a world of information on YouTube in general, and a lot of creators have done really great videos on period pain workouts that are very low impact, kind of embracing the cramps, the back pain, etc. And after I do them, I truly feel a lot better. If you don't even want to think about working out, of course, don't do it. Above all else, listen to your body. Another option though would be yoga. I used to do yoga with Adrienne all the time, and she has some really great videos, like super old ones too, because they're so really good to use, but ones with cramps, ones for back pain, ones for lower back pain, neck pain, etc. And those are all just very prominent areas for me, and yoga is very relaxing. I say that as if it's like a revolutionary thing. I was talking on my Instagram about how I need to work on my breathing techniques, especially when I'm lifting weights. Sometimes I find myself just holding my breath, which is so terrible. But many of you suggested that I should really look into yoga more often, so that's something I really need to keep up. One last thing to mention is just how important it is to really make sure that you are taking care of yourself, taking care of your body, and seeking a professional if you are having any troubles with your period. I don't think I've ever mentioned this before, but right before I went off to college, I was not treating my body well. I was listening to things I shouldn't have been listening to workout programs and diet guides that were not helpful for me and my body, and truly was eating a very low caloric intake because that's what diet culture was telling me was the right thing to do, and it absolutely wasn't. And as a result of that, I actually lost my period for about 10 months, 11 months, honestly up to a year. It was really, really horrible, and it was really hard on my body, and I had no answers. I didn't understand at the time that would have been a big cause of my period going away, and also realizing now how appreciative I should be and am that I have been able to get my period back and have it on a very regular schedule, because that is like a privilege in and of itself. And it's really scary to think back on because I wasn't treating my body well, and as a result of that, my body went into survival mode essentially, and my period went away. I lost my period. And it was really, really hard, but it wasn't until I was doing more research on it and looking back years later that I realized it was because I wasn't taking care of my body in the way that I should have been. And if there's anything that you can take away from this video other than just prioritizing your needs and your rest during that time of the month, it's also to make sure that you're getting the health and professional advice and expertise that you deserve. I cannot focus and do my hair. Oh my golly. Just making sure that you're taking care of yourself and what your body needs. Our world does not revolve around the female menstrual cycle, and to be honest, it should, because it's really important and it dictates so much of how our hormones fluctuate, and it's just really important to be able to listen and understand our bodies, and I hope that you can do that for yourself. Oh, Camille! Say, we love you. Bye. Go to bed.